Off the back of yesterday's video going over how to get the best possible aim inside Warzone 3, this video is going to be going over what are the best long-range optics on your rifles inside Warzone 3. So we're mainly focusing on optics that have a 2x level of zoom or above, and we're going to not go as high as 6x optics because those are kind of like sniper rifle options. So between 2 and 5 times is where we're looking at our optics for in this video. Before we get into all the actual details, I do want to quickly point out some of these low level optics will be a good option for long range rifles if you do want to use them, so they are viable. You could definitely get away with using these if you want to. I just think that if you want a little bit extra zoom, obviously this is not going to do any better than just your base iron sights. But there is some optics like the QTG reflex sight that doesn't really state what the zoom level is. So it's not really telling you in-game anywhere that you can find out the zoom level on these guns. So we kind of skipped over these ones because I think they're about a 1.5 or a 2x. I'm not really too sure, and we can't really confirm it any other way than just basically comparing them, which is not really a good way of actually testing this. Now, with all that being said, now let's jump straight into it. And the first ones we have are the 2.5x optics, which is what they state in game. And we've got a couple of different options. Now, there's a few more that you're not seeing on screen, but these are the ones that are the most viable. And then I'll show you the other ones that we have as well, because some of them are actually glitched and bugged on top of that. So we'll quickly get into that. But we've got the True Sight. We've got the Eagle's Eye, which is probably one of the most popular optics that are getting used right now. And to be honest, I do think it's one of the best in the game. And then we've got the CRIO ELT. I don't even know how you say that, Cryo or Cryo. I'm not even sure, but that is what the optic's called. But also the other thing that's quite important to note with these optics in general, it's not what you do see, it's also what you cannot see with these optics equipped. And as you can see, the optics do take up a little bit of your screen space, or your screen real estate for that matter, and it might make you miss certain things that are going on around you. So as you can see here, when it comes to the True Sight, it's relatively clean. The Eagle's Eye is obviously the cleanest out of the three that we have here, and then the Cryo ELT is a little bit clunkier in terms of an optic. So if we are trying to pick between them, I do think the Eagle's Eye is the best, and overall it has low visual recoil as well from what I managed to test in game. Now, another optic that has the 2.5x is the KR Mortis or Mortis. I'm not even sure how you say these optic names, to be fair. But again, this is a 2.5x optic, but I do not recommend this one in the slightest, because if you look at how clunky this is on the screen, it's pretty ridiculous. And what I've done here is emphasize this even further. Now, not only have I highlighted how much of the optic takes up your screen, I've also outlined the dummy there and shown you how many enemies this can actually cover up on your screen. So at that distance, which is a 50-meter distance of that dummy in blue, you can actually hide pretty much a full stack of teams flying in from the top. So if you're playing Warzone, this could be enemies flying in on top of buildings, it doesn't really matter. Or it can also hide enemies that are the same distance away, just stand on the ground behind the optic there. So this is why you want to make sure your optic is nice and clean, because you could basically hide enemy players by using certain optics in general. So this is one I would recommend staying away from. Moving on to another 2.5 times optic, and that's the KR Marauder, which is on the right. Now, in game it states 2.5x, but in reality is not 2.5x. This is like a 5x optic zoom. I'm not exactly sure what the exact number is on this, but the in-game stats are wrong for this one. I compared it side by side with the Cryo ELT, obviously, as you can see here, and you can see you're getting way more of a zoom, and I will stand at the same distance and everything in the firing range, so you can see it's pretty straightforward to compare that one there. Next up, we've got the only 3.4x zoom optic in the game, which is the Schlager. Now, this is a very clean optic. So as you can see here, when it comes to screen real estate, this one probably takes up the least out of any optic that I've seen for long range in this game, to be honest. This is kind of how clean you want all your optics to be, so that you can make sure you're seeing everything that's going on around you. But like I said, it does have pretty bad visual recoil for some reason, so hopefully if they do fix that, I doubt they will, because it's a Modern Warfare 2 optic and not a Modern Warfare 3 one. Next up, we've got our 4x optics, which is the TX4 Havoc, the VLK from Modern Warfare 2, and then the AOK, which is another Modern Warfare 3 optic, I'm pretty sure anyway. And these three optics do obviously have the 4x zoom, as you can see. Also, I do want to point out how much screen real estate this is going to take up, and as you can see, the Havoc's the worst one. The VLK is not too bad, to be fair. The AOK is actually decent as well. I just prefer the VLK. I think it's a slightly cleaner optic for the most part, but I think this one's going to come down to personal preference. Now, when it comes to visual recoil on the VLK and the AOK and the Havoc, to be fair, all three have very good visual recoil, so you're not going to have too many issues there. Last but not least, we have the 5x options. Now, this is going to be anything that's 5x and above, between 5 and 6. And as you can see here, we've got the Cronin Zero, which is a 5x optic. And then we've got the Forge Tac Delta, which is a 5.5x optic. So as you can see, you get a little bit extra zoom with that one. When it comes to screen real estate, both of these optics are pretty decent, to be fair. They don't take up a lot of space, so either or are pretty good choices when it comes down to that. When it comes to the actual reticle itself, the Delta has the better reticle, if I'm being perfectly honest. And then also, when it comes to visual recoil on these guns, when you get into that kind of 5 to 6x optic range, you're starting to see a lot of the visual recoil kick in, because obviously these are kind of optics mainly for sniper rifles and more of those marksman style rifles, not something that's fully automatic. So lastly, we're going to cover the hybrid optics, which I kind of need to go in game for, because obviously these have a switch of 2 different options. Now, when it comes to the ones that we have here, so we've got the DR hybrid sight, we've got the hybrid Firepoint, SZ Vortex, BP Z40 hybrid, SZ Oscar, Angel, and then we've also got some thermal ones, which I don't really care too much about thermal optics. I'm not even going to talk about them in this video. Now, when it comes to the Angel, I think it's not too bad, but I wouldn't really recommend it too much. The Oscar, again, it's something that I do think is probably one of the cleaner ones. So showing you this one in the firing range, as you can see here, it's actually a relatively clean optic when it comes to the long range version of the optic. And then also when you toggle it down, obviously it's relatively clean as well. But the low zoom is not something that we need to concern ourselves with too much. It's mainly the high zoom, because that is the one that's going to cause the kind of most problems here. Now, the other one that I really like as well is the BP Z40 hybrid. Now, obviously, it is a 5.5x magnification, but taking this into the firing range, you can see how clean this optic actually is. And there's not really much visual recoil with it either, which is obviously really good as well. So if you do like hybrid optics, this is a really good choice. Obviously, toggling it, you can see you get a really clean low zoom optic as well. So this is pretty much one of the better choices. So there we have it. I've covered all the long range optics for your rifles. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe, and thank you very much for watching.